Hello everybody, my name is Koss and welcome to episode 2. I'm dedicating episode 2 to skilling as it is a foundation of Molior RS. So as you can see, I am in the Dwarven Mine, which is in the Kingdom of Asgarnia, so you know what that means. So I have been thinking how I can introduce skilling to this series, and I've done multiple iterations of this, and it got to the point where I was like, why am I explaining like what mining is and what smithing is, and you know, what's the purpose of fishing fish and then cooking them? So I want to try and avoid that and just treat this episode as just a general context to skilling. One of the mistakes I made when I last did a gameplay series of a project was just sort of jumping straight into the gameplay of like doing a quest, and then a lot of questions were like, "Oh, do you have skills in this?" So hopefully this episode and obviously episode 1 will sort of be treated as the context of sort of the project. So jumping straight into it, as you can see, I'm mining at the moment in the Dwarven Mine, and I guess I just want to explain sort of what skills we have, what we've done differently with skills, and sort of how they work in Neverwinter 2, i.e., Molior RS. So obviously, we're a mod in Neverwinter 2, completely different game to Runescape, different functions, and sort of how things work mechanically. So I'm going to start off with mining because that's what I'm doing at the moment. In that, to improve, I guess, on the quality of life, one of the sort of, I guess, little pet peeves I have with RuneScape is when you do quests like the Haunted Mine, one of the rewards is like, oh, you have access to the mithril veins, and it's like, who is going to like the third level in the Haunted Mine to mine mithril? So what we've introduced is sort of tiers of sort of like rocks and veins. So rocks are on the surface. They give a high amount of XP, but you can only mine like 1 or 2 ore from them. Veins are mining at the moment. I believe these are iron veins. They're less XP, but a lot more AFKable. And then we have rich veins, are sort of like the same XP, but slightly more AFKable. Rich veins are sort of like more accessible locally, or locked behind a reward. But then concentrated veins are sort of like they're the same XP as veins and rich, but a lot more AFKable. I think to the point you can just click once and sort of you know mine them for 20 minutes straight. Old school RuneScape, but also sort of bringing life back into these areas. So if you want to mine like a whole bunch of coal, you would want to go to the concentrated coal veins. Um, I always say, we take content from both games, so I believe we do have like the living rock caverns from RuneScape 3. So if you did want concentrated gold or coal, you could go there and mine a whole bunch without sort of you know, too much of a delay. So coming on to fishing, absolutely very brief. Now, all skills don't follow that same structure of mining. It was primarily mining, so you won't find like concentrated shrimp spots or, rich salmon sort of fishing spots. Fishing spots are all the same. They are on the same structure of I think all our XP for all skills is like 3 times. So there's boosted XP for all of them, and they're all on the same level of AFK-ness. So I think maybe the fishing guild is the unique sort of aspect with fishing in the sense that it is the fishing guild. You want to have a reason to go there. So I think they are slightly faster to fish and slightly more AFKable. But I think primarily that's only if you want like lobsters or sharks. I think that's the only reason you'd want to go to the fishing guild. Um, Yeah, fishing overall is basic. Same with cooking. You cook fish. You can make pies, pizzas, etc. All that stuff. So now onto wood cutting. This is always a bit 50-50 with people. So to give a bit of a history on wood cutting, when I first started with project in Neverwinter Nights 1, so this was back in like 2012, what we did was it was only me at the time. So what I did was I made the actual trees, the trees that tower above you, be sort of cuttable. Now the issue with that is we've got trees. As you see, I'm in Lumbridge Forest, which is just west of Lumbridge. There's trees everywhere. You can click to move in No Winter Nights 2 as Molior RS, or you could use WASD. You can't click on the mini map to move. So trying to move your cursor around. So if you wanted to talk to an NPC who's in like a forest or click, kill a goblin, your cursor was constantly getting sort of blocked by trees. So I introduced a system of tree stumps in a way. So at the moment, I'm cutting a dead tree, which is the tier 1. It gives you normal logs. Behind me, you'll see a larger stump just to the right, and that is the oak stump, which is level 15. So yeah, you sort of cut tree stumps, not rather than trees, and this was more so sort of the functionality of the limitations of the engine in the game. I think it was on our to-do list to sort of like incorporate visual effects of if you are cutting a stump, it does look like a full tree as well. And then when you cut the tree, just the basic stump appears. But I don't want to sound like a broken record by saying with Molior RS ending that we don't have time to do it, but that was the case, unfortunately. It's just, yeah, took a lot of time. Um, Doing a bit of fire making as well. One of the things we like about fire making is it feels a bit like a dead skill, and I guess in both games away, not so much RuneScape 3 because they added slight perks to it, which we've introduced recently. In that we have day and night settings. Certain caves are like pitch black, so fire making and lighting fires adds that light essence of seeing where you're going. But I think also if as you add logs to the bonfire, so we have that AFK-ableness of adding logs to a fire rather than creating a line of fires like old school RuneScape, in that it gives you a HP boost. So there is that sort of combat benefit of fire making now. And the last skill I want to just discuss for today's episode is pickpocketing. Functionalities of No Winter Nights 2, we have this thing called a Thief's Tool, which we have to use on NPC. So there's not like a right click option in pickpocket. You have to use the tool on an NPC to pickpocket them, which you can see is on my hotbar tier 1 or level option 1, I don't know what you call it, button 1. So I essentially spam click that and it sort of builds an action of pickpocketing. So even pickpocketing and thieving is AFKable in Molior RS as well. So but we've done a slight quality of life on it. You don't get stunned and you don't take damage. So we've got those sort of. I understand from RuneScape's perspective, by all means, and I always say Molior RS's purpose was to be a casual game, a relaxing game, not a sort of you log on the server and you're spending 10 hours to get 2 mining levels game. It is something you ideally want to complete in like 6 months or something. Um, so that's where we took those frustrations away from sort of thieving and pickpocketing. We also introduced a system from RuneScape 3. Now I know old school RuneScape sort of has the rogues outfit that doubles for loot, but we introduced a system that RuneScape 3 has where slightly changed in that it's not related to agility because we don't have agility, but the higher thieving level you are, the higher chance you have to double the loot you can get and then sort of even triple. But yeah, that is thieving. I've always played Iron Man, and I know thieving isn't sort of like a major money making in RuneScape, in the sense that you're fresh off Tutorial Island, you go pickpocket men for like a while and get a whole GP stacks. I think they would give like free GP, but I've introduced sort of like tiers of GP to pickpocketing levels. As you saw at the end, I was going off to Alcarid to pickpocket the guards because they give more GP and more XP. So there's a reason to sort of do that. Whereas I think pickpocketing in RuneScape, well, primarily old school RuneScape, because I know RuneScape 3 recently went to 120, is that I don't think you pickpocket anyone apart from like the high tiers. Like who has ever pickpocketed an Alcarid guard or the normal guards that go around Varrock and Lumbridge? So I guess similar to mining, where we've introduced this mechanic of you want to thieve Varrock guards, you want to thieve the Yanil Watchmen. I don't know anyone who has ever, pickpocketed the Yanil Watchmen, but you now can because of that sort of more casual approach to thieving. Um, but yeah, that's the skills I want to sort of introduce at the moment to a project. I think as I play more, as I do quests, as I upgrade my gear, and I complete Slayer tasks and train combat, the other skills will naturally come in sort of into effect. What I always like to do when I sort of either play a project or even on an Iron Man or just normal account in RuneScape is always get my skills high first. So then that gives me the resources, to upgrade my gear, etc. So what I'm going to do now is just passively play off sort of camera. So the next time you might see it, I'm not going to be 99 thieving or anything drastic like that. But so yeah, hopefully that covers sort of like the skills in Molior RS. As I said earlier, these first two episodes are more of sort of like the context of Mario RS. So hopefully the next few episodes will be more sort of literal direct gameplay, running around, etc. Um, Sort of engaging in the content. I don't want this to be like a 200 episode series, so this is why I wanted to introduce skilling early so I can sort of passively train off camera. Um, One of the mistakes I made when I first ever did a gameplay series was sort of like jump straight into the gameplay. And then we've had people commenting like, oh, have you had, do you have skills in this? Do you have like Slayer? Do you have like rune crafting and things like that? So hopefully I haven't covered all the skills, but it's give you an insight into how sort of skills function in the project. So, apart from that, I'm going to leave it there, and I hope you all have a good rest of your day or whatever you have planned. Thank you. Goodbye.